I'm Phil Thompson. How's everybody doing today?
Hi, and I'm Steve Lacy.
Steve, how is life for you? You have a house full of cats and dogs and kids, right?
Yes, we are babysitting. My wife primarily babysitting, and we're dog sitting. So
All
we
right.
have
No
grandson
cats.
and grand dog. So
All right. So your life is busy. And for those of you who don't know, we've been working out of our home for the last 30 years. So it doesn't, I know with COVID, everybody's working out of their home, but we've been doing it not 30 years, we've been doing it for a long time. All right. Well, good. Well, welcome everybody to another edition of the Church Solutions podcast. And we're glad to have you here today. We've got a special guest on the show today. Her name is Stephanie Antonucci Leathe. Did I get that right, Stephanie?
Got it right. Yes.
All right. Well, there you go. And Stephanie is with a company called Alter Live. You can go to alterlive.com and find out more about it. But instead of going there, why don't we just ask Stephanie a little bit about, first of all, we ran across you guys. We do streaming video as well as other things. And we had as Steve put it, a potential customer asking if we integrated with Alter Live. And we looked around at each other and said, sure, yeah, absolutely. But we didn't exactly say that. But we didn't really know about Alter Live because Alter Live, ALTAR, is a new venture that you guys have come up with in the last, 18 months or so?
Yeah, 18 months. We are definitely a product born out of COVID.
All right. Well, tell us, what is Alter Live and how does it work with streaming video, and how do churches get involved in this, and just tell us all the good stuff about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's so nice to be on this show. Obviously, we knew about you guys long before you knew about us. We've known about streaming church TV for quite a while now. And you guys have a lot of great customers that we've had the pleasure of bumping into now, since we live in this shared space of helping churches not just get online, but also engage people online.
Right.
So that's very much what Alter started out of. So we're a team of software engineers and entrepreneurs. We came together in the middle of COVID, really helping a local pastor friend get his live stream online. And in helping him do that, realized, while getting the live stream online is what you guys are really amazing at doing, there was a gap starting to form. Most people were watching at home, either on, YouTube, Facebook, their church website, or the church online platform, but they weren't able to really talk back. Church was becoming a Netflix show more than an actual community experience together. And so we said, could we help bridge this gap? A lot of churches started using Zoom to do that, but that drop off switching between links from one platform to Zoom and back and forth, nobody likes doing that. So we said, could we use the tool of, both live streaming and video conferencing together to recreate what church is about, which is, our community life together in the online space. So Alter Live was born out of that. We launched in October last year. We've been developing as a team for 10 plus years, but the platform itself was really designed and developed in partnership with churches, understanding how they are trying to meet the engagement needs of their people online. So that's a little bit of the background of our starting story. What is Alter? We are a browser-based video conference and live stream platform. Think of the fun analogy a lot of people give when they see the platform is it's like church online platform Chop and Zoom had a baby, it would be Alter Live. If you could bring those two functionalities together, that would be what you can do on Alter. So for churches, we replace primarily their Zoom subscription. So Alter is a video conference destination. You can use it for all, one account covers all your staff needs, volunteer needs, and any event that you might be hosting throughout the week. Instead of having multiple Zoom accounts, you can have one account to host all of those types of events. And our signature difference is really the way we handle breakout rooms as well. So instead of breakout rooms, we do tables where people can move freely between them. It really brings back some of that organic nature of what we do in person. The second way the churches use us is often as a YouTube or Chop or Facebook replacement, or in addition to Facebook or YouTube and social media platform, but a way to take your live stream and make it an interactive experience where people can not just watch, but even interact with each other on a peer-to-peer level, both in what we call the auditorium, where people can take seats over video conference with one another, and in the lobby before and after. Think of it a little bit like your virtual fellowship hall. So those are the two main ways that churches use Altar right now. It's really meant to be a 7-day-a-week platform. And we have about 1,200 communities on the platform now, all across the world, which has been really exciting to see grow, from North America to Europe, African continent, and all the way down to Australia and Southeast Asia.
Cool. So if I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, if I was to do a Zoom meeting with my church and I've got 500 people at my church, I'm like, that's going to get really interesting if I got 500 of those little tiles up there and 500 people trying to talk to me, and the pastor's trying to get the message out, and people envision this just chaos, right? Because we're doing a Zoom meeting right now to do this podcast, and it's very manageable with 2 or 3, or we do our small groups at our church with, maybe up to 6, up to 10 or so, and you can kind of manage it, but you get much more than that. It start getting crazy. So how does Zoom address that issue in not Zoom, how does Altar Live address that issue in your product?
Absolutely. And that is exactly the scenario we saw most people in. You really do more listening than talking once it gets over 6, 8, 12. Really 12 is kind of the maximum that we hear from people before it becomes more like a show than it does a conversation. So ways we do that on Altar. So we have the capacity on Altar to easily move from big groups to small groups and keep that organic flow there. So let's take a small group example, your Bible study example. So, Bible studies that are using Altar function very similarly to what you do on Zoom right now, where you can be in an all group meeting all together. You can do screen share, mute, control people's audio mics, but you can also break people out into smaller groups. On Zoom right now, the host has to manage all of that. They have to create the breakout groups. They have to move people between them. And if Steve wants to go talk to Phil, he can't just go have a side conversation with him. The host would have to move him where he needs to go. On Altar, you have the ability to actually go hop between those small groups and even go have those side conversations with people. So it allows you to still have that big group conversation, but then also be able to do something more organically. Maybe Phil wants to share a private prayer request with Steve. Maybe the host needs to have a little conversation off to the side about what's coming next in the schedule. There's lots of opportunities for people to catch up more organically within both the breakout rooms space and the main event space.
So you were explaining this, and we don't have the benefit of the visual with this, but the kind of painting a picture for this for a service is it would show the pastor or the worship band or whatever kind of on the front, and then you've got just some rows with 4 seats together. So as people arrive to a service, they see the pastor or the worship band or whatever's going on in the service, and then you would, I guess, as if I want to participate, I pick a row and choose a seat on one of those rows, and those rows are limited to 4 people, right? So as I go, we'll explain how what happens. So once I sit down on a row, what happens?
Yeah, in the auditorium state. So
in the auditorium.
That small group function you just described is a regular Zoom meeting. But now if you're trying to use Zoom for what you're describing, a Sunday service or something that's maybe a little bit more structured, maybe you have a larger audience, maybe there's 500 people in the Sunday service, Zoom becomes really unwieldy. But on Facebook or YouTube, you can scale that event, but now people can't actually talk to each other except through the comments. And you don't actually know who's on the other side of the screen. All you can see is a number of views. So on Altar, what it looks like to join a Sunday service, you're going to click on that link. It's going to open a browser on your window or on your mobile phone. And you're going to see that live stream screen at the top, very similar to what you might see on YouTube, on Facebook, on Chop, where everything's happening up on that stage like you described, Steve. Below it, you're going to see some empty rows. These are seats where you can actually click on any empty seat as a user to join into a virtual watch party, you could call it, with other people seated in that same row. And in that row together, Steve and I and Phil, we could all be seated in a row talking with one another while watching the live stream in sync, but not disturbing the audio of everyone else on the event because we're in a private group together. So use cases of this, all of a sudden, instead of just watching in silence in your house by yourself, you can be watching with other people. And when somebody says on stage, turn to your neighbor and discuss these sermon questions, you can actually do that. When you have a time of prayer points on screen, you have real people that you can do that with live over video conference versus just in the chat messaging. So we see lots of that. One of my favorite things that I see on the platform during services is a time of passing of the peace or greeting one another. It's just as chaotic online as it is in person, where people get to hop between those rows. And again, if I go see Phil sitting in another row, I can go hop to his row, click on a seat next to him, and I can say, "Hi, Phil, it's been a while. I heard you were sick this week. How are you doing?" And then I can go back and sit with Steve or choose to not be on video camera at all if I don't want to be. So that kind of interaction really brings back that organic feel, and as well some of the agency of people on the actual event to choose who they sit with and who they talk with on the event.
What if somebody's sitting next to me and I don't want them sitting next to me?
It's great. It's even easier than in person. All you have to do is leave your seat and you can go find somewhere else to sit or choose not to sit next to anyone. We get that a lot. You'll also imagine, and for those listening, you can go look at it online, but you'll see the scrollable rows underneath the live stream video. I've even found on, I go to a lot of churches on Sunday, you can imagine, all over the world, but I will often find a few people seated in the farthest back row on screen, even though it makes no difference, but somehow humans still manage to find the very back
That's
row.
Funny. That's really funny. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to rope off those back rows.
Exactly.
So it sounds like during a service, people are hopping around quite a bit then. I just envisioned that I found a seat, it's just if I'm going to church, I'm not going to go, "Ooh, Phil's coming to sit next to me. I'm going to run off to."
Oh, you might.
Row.
Depends on how badly Phil sings.
Yeah.
But,
so do I need to take a seat? I mean, can I just, I'm this shy introvert and I don't want to see people, or I don't want people to see me watching church in my underwear and or what's the opportunity for people to engage or withdraw on the platform?
Great question. So that's something we've tried to maximize is people's ability to join as anonymously or as easily as they want without having to be on video camera, but then be able to take that next step. So you do not have to be on video camera at all on Altar. You can see everything that's happening without having taken a seat. You can watch the live stream. You can participate in the chat, participate in polls, announcements, which are very similar to Moments on the Church Online platform. And then when you do want to take a seat, you can have your camera off as well. So you can just be on audio with other people. That ability to move around during a service, it's surprising. You would think, so from what we observe, we don't actually see as many, once the service begins, a lot of people won't, move around between seats. They'll stay with who they are, or they'll choose not to be seated after the participatory times, like a time of discussion or prayer, and they might choose to watch by themselves. But one of the coolest things on Altar is before or after a service or an event of any kind, the host can move everyone into the lobby. And then the lobby it keeps everyone on the exact same length, but the host has the ability to essentially move people into a new space where there's no longer a live stream. Think of it like your virtual fellowship hall, where now instead of rows, there's tables. And those tables are where people can mix and mingle with each other. You can name those tables. So you might imagine now after the service, after this last song plays, you can move everyone into the lobby where there might be a meet the pastor table or a prayer table, maybe a few of those, maybe a next steps table, where now people can go organize themselves around a specific topic, or again, pull someone aside that they want to have a conversation with.
And the magic number is still 4 though, right? The table's seat 4, is that right? You don't have a table of 25 or?
Good question. There's tables and rows are both limited to 4, but so rooms is what you can also attach to your lobby. Rooms have the ability to go up to 50 and 100. So we've, all those things that you said on Zoom, one of the reasons we keep things at 4 in the auditorium, in the lobby state, is for those more intentional conversations, that they don't get overcrowded. But there are things that you need to be able to talk to more people with all at the same time. And so that's where people use rooms. You can hop into rooms while you're in that lobby state as well. And rooms can, just like those tables, can be named for different things. We often see churches using them before service begins for an adult discipleship class, or a prayer room, or even like a children's ministry volunteer training session, where inside those rooms, you can do all the same things you do on Zoom: screen share, mute people, control cameras, and you can have, again, up to that 50 or 100 capacity in those.
So it does, just making sure I understand the flow, and you showed this to me, I should have been paying close attention, but there's the worship service, and then there's the equivalent of the foyer with the tables.
Yeah.
Does the host then say, here's a set of rooms, and I can go choose a room to go to? So I'm either in presentation worship service mode, or fellowship mode, or teaching mode. Is that correct?
Almost. So there are the 2 main modes are auditorium mode, where you have the live stream feed on stage, which can be pre-recorded or live video, and those rows underneath where people can be in virtual watch parties together. As a host, you can move people then into the what we call the lobby mode, or the fellowship hall mode, where within that there's both rooms and tables. So people can then move themselves between either tables or rooms within that mode. And just like in person, you leave the sanctuary and you walk down the hall, and you might bump into somebody in the hallway, but then you also might enter a classroom. You might leave that classroom, go back out into the hallway. Think of the lobby being able to do all of that.
Okay. And one of the other questions that we had talked with you is, because it was a question mark for us, was being in the streaming space. You guys provide the platform, but you don't provide the streaming element for it, right? So you rely on third parties like us to provide the streaming piece of it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there's, I guess when we get towards the end, we'll ask about how people can participate and what it would cost and all that sort of thing, but we'll get there. What were you going to say, Phil?
Well, I was actually going there.
Okay.
So when people go to altarlive.com, they're going to see, some information about Altar Live, a lot of what you've talked about, some videos, and then they can choose somebody like us, streamingchurch.tv, or they could choose somebody else, God forbid, but if they wanted to, they could. Yeah. But and so we provide a link, so to speak, that they could use to connect up with our content delivery servers, right? And Absolutely. So there's a cost, obviously, for this. Let's talk about cost, because we're starting to run out of time here, and I wanted to ask a couple questions about you, Stephanie. So you can't get off the hook here. But what is the cost? So I'm a pastor listening to this, altarlive.com. Sounds interesting. What's this going to cost me?
Yeah, great question. So I'll reiterate what you said too. Yeah, we are a destination platform. So you bring your own streaming provider to us. You do not have to change anything about the way that you currently stream. If you're a streaming church.tv user, you can continue using it as you do now and continue to multi-stream to whatever platforms. Consider us one of those platforms you would multi-stream to. So depending on the complexity of what you're looking to achieve, we can handle from very, very simple all the way up to really complex types of live stream connections. So cost-wise, so you can consider Altar. I mean, again, for most churches switching to us, they're usually doing a few different kinds of cost savings. The first one that they're primarily doing is Zoom. Alter allows you to switch off all of your Zoom accounts. I just onboarded a church last week that is switching from 90 Zoom accounts as a church to Alter with one account.
Yikes.
We can really handle, the quantity that you're looking to host, one account for all your small group needs. The second piece of cost savings is the anything that you're doing that you might be using a paid platform for when it comes to destination platforms. So if you're paying for, capacity on Vimeo, on YouTube, any of these places, this becomes, a one-stop shop for that as well. And then lastly, the overall thing that we work the most on is engagement. And so what we price our platforms on is video conferencing costs and number of what we call monthly active users. So we start, the tiers that you start on Alter are 35 monthly active users, 70, 150, 300, 500. We can go up to, 10,000 plus. But so you're looking at a $69 cost for the 35 monthly active users, 99 for 150, and then goes up from there, decreases as the more users you have on the platform. So one of the things people immediately ask is, what is a monthly active user? So if you're a pastor of a church, what you need to be thinking about is two types of people. One is anonymous people. These are people who might be watching your Facebook stream or your YouTube stream or your church website, and they're not maybe a regular attendee, or they're just checking you out. We'd call them a visitor or an anonymous guest. In Alter, you can have unlimited number of those. There is no charge to number of people who are watching. When somebody becomes a monthly active user is when they decide to create an account in your Alter community to participate in video conferencing or some of the more direct messaging features, things of that nature. Now, it serves two purposes. For the church, the benefit of this is that you now get to have an easier way to know who is watching your live stream feed. People have an easier way of making themselves known. On Facebook and YouTube, the only way you can know that is if they like or comment on something. On Alter, they can take that next step from, again, just checking you out, fly on the wall perspective, to then interacting with the greeter still as an anonymous person, to being invited to take a seat or invited to participate in a room or something like that. So that gives you a lot of contact information to follow up on. The second, really, the benefit of the way that we do monthly active users is the privacy and accessibility balance. You can imagine that on the internet, what we're always thinking about is how to make everything as accessible as possible. So there should not be any hurdles that people have to jump through when they click on a link to join an event or a meeting. So Alter maximizes that. But because we handle video conferencing and direct messaging, the reality of operating on the internet is you have to think about all the worst case scenarios as well. And so we require that one level of authentication when somebody actually makes themselves a user, to better protect your community and to be able to manage that security piece. So that's the way we think about monthly active users. The best part about Alter, it's pay as you use. So even our largest accounts start on the lowest tiers. As more people sign up, your users will increase and your monthly active user count gets reset every month. So if somebody accidentally creates an account, or maybe Christmas, you have a lot of visitors, but the next month, that drops in half or by however much, you're not paying for people who aren't using your platform. So our costs are really tied to that engagement level.
Good.
So I can
That's
have
good.
I can have 500 accounts or users, but I only get, 100 attendants participating, then I don't have to pay for everyone that signed up for an account.
Exactly. Yes. You're
Okay.
only paying for those who are actively participating in an event or a meeting.
All right. That's good. Good deal. All right. So Stephanie, what's your position with Alter Live?
Yeah, great question. I am a founder of Alter, as well as the CEO. So I get to wear a lot of different hats at the company. My background has been in education, entrepreneurship. I'm the daughter of pastors, so I have always been on the other side of the aisle, so to say, and have entered into the tech side more recently. But I work with an amazing team that has really helped dream up this platform and really, dove into the faith space, trying to understand this engagement gap that we are experiencing.
So you don't see a lot of women in tech, and you're seeing more and more women in tech today, which I think is awesome. How did you get, I mean, you're one of the founders, but how did this happen? If you can give us a 60-second version of that.
That's a great question. So my background, so I actually do not have a background in software engineering or technology. I am married to a software engineer, so maybe that was a little bit of my early influence in the space. And I can say I've always loved technology and computers, played video games at a very young age. So it was probably, looking backwards, there was a lot of early signs that this was something I would enjoy. So previously I worked in a lot of consulting for nonprofits and businesses. I worked at my alma mater, Gordon College, just outside of Boston, where I live now, in their entrepreneurship center. Through that role, I got the opportunity to meet lots of different startup founders all over the Massachusetts area, but also beyond. It's how I met my two co-founders. So we met through a mentorship program that they were helping with, and just struck up a friendship, struck up conversation. You can imagine an event like COVID does not happen every year. So that kind of event plus us bumping into each other enough led to just some ideation starting. And like I mentioned, two things kind of happened at the same time. One was we shared a mutual friend in Boxford, Massachusetts here, who was he's a pastor, getting his live stream online, started helping him out together. And the second was we were starting to build into video conferencing and realized, all right, we've got two things happening here. One is we've got a really underserved community. People do not usually build technology for faith communities. You guys are a rare example who've done a really amazing job in this space, but it's just not one that people are jumping into very quickly. And the second was video conferencing is becoming a really important part of the way that we communicate, audio and video communication. So we said, could we help churches not just keep up with the pace of technology of what might have already been the standard a few years ago, but really stay ahead of that as well. So pairing all of those things together, you can imagine we all have that entrepreneur in us that just started on top of our full-time jobs to see if there was, if there was some way we could contribute in this area. And it led to me quitting my full-time job, joining Alter full-time. And we've been at it for, like you said, about 18 months now.
Exciting. So how can people get a hold of you, Stephanie?
Great question. I am reached on lots of different platforms, but you can reach me at stephanie@alterlive.com. You can head to our website as well. There's a little chat bot in the right-hand corner that I see and answer a lot of, as well as our support team. So you're welcome to reach out to me there as well. And then across LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you can follow us at @alterlive. I look at all those messages as well.
Awesome. Sounds good. Okay, well, we're out of time, but this is exciting. I'd encourage our listeners and our viewers to check out alterlive.com, and they can help you, or we can help you. We can at least point you in the right direction if you have any questions. So this is good. I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're excited to be partnering with you all. I think the work you've done, I mean, you guys have been in this space a lot longer and have helped churches through a lot of other technology innovation waves. So it's exciting to be partnering together in this way. Yeah, for anyone listening, you're welcome to get started on a 14-day free trial of Alter. We handle all the onboarding. You can imagine one of the number one concerns is always, I don't want to move my people to yet another platform. So if that's a concern, we can definitely take you all the way there. We've walked a lot of churches through that process.
That's awesome. All right, good. All right, well, we're out of time. Thank you, Stephanie. Sure appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yes.
likewise, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right, and thank you, Steve Lacy, for your input as usual.
I'm glad to be here. This is a fun one.
It is a fun one. My name is Phil Thompson, and this Church Solutions broadcast, whatever we call it, is brought to you by mychurchdaily.com. I should have said this earlier. I forgot. They won't pay us now. mychurchdaily.com, which is actually us. We actually have created mychurchdaily.com. You can be on Alexa devices. You can be on Amazon Echo devices. You can do flash briefings, all that good stuff. Go to mychurchdaily.com. We have a 14-day free trial as well. And if you have any questions about that, you can always chat with us live. So we're done here. I've taken enough time here again. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, folks, for your time today to the Church Solutions Podcast. My name is Phil Thompson. Have yourself a great day. We'll catch you next time. Take care.